You are listening to the We Need to Talk About Tasker podcast, and this is our interview with Ethan Berger, writer, director of The Line, starring Alex Wolff, Louis Pullman, Bo Mitchell, Austin Abrams, Halle Bailey, and the late Angus Cloud.
And I feel like I want audiences to realize that we have agency. And I think that, I hope we think about whether it's worth compromising our morals to fit in.
Ethan, it's a pleasure to meet you. To be honest, this film's been on my mind since I first saw it in June of 23, so I'm beyond pumped to get the chance to talk with you about it.
Awesome. I'm flattered and I'm excited too.
To begin with the film getting together and, becoming a film, how did you shop the script around back then? Was it solely the script, or did you already have someone attached to the project?
Well, we wrote the first draft in 2012. And so I had sent it out to a bunch of people, and 6 years later, a producer took interest who took me into agencies who gave me a list of some actors that they thought might be interested, and the whole thing kind of just took off from there.
And in the film, we get to see some more and some less familiar faces, but all around incredible performances. What I'm trying to get at is the process of assembling this incredible group of beautiful people. What was that like? Like, if I'm correct, you shot this in early 2022, so...
Yeah, at the end of 2021 and early 2022.
Yeah, because by then, Alex Wolff was pretty damn well known. Halle as well. Same goes for Austin and Louis. Angus, of course, gone too soon. And not to mention a legend like John Malkovich.
Well, basically, the story with everybody is a little different, but Alex attached in 2018, and we went out to him right as Hereditary was coming out. And I think that people hadn't really seen it yet. And so I got to him at the right time. And then he was so incredibly invested that it gave me confidence. And, he introduced me to Austin Abrams, for instance, and was totally set on Austin being in the movie. And then I established a relationship with Austin, or I watched the first season of Euphoria and asked my agent if Angus would take a meeting with me in 2018, 2019. And we just had a good meeting. And then when it was time to make the movie at the end of 2021, we reached out to all these people who were familiar with it, and they all agreed to do it, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
During the casting process and sometime after getting ready to shoot it, was the script fully logged in by that point, or was there maybe still some room for even the actors to bring in some of their own personal experiences, for example?
Into the script, well, the script wasn't so much about bringing in the actors' personal experience, but it changed a lot because we rewrote it every year. And we didn't just stuff it in a drawer. We just kept rewriting it as Alex Russick and I aged. And I think our perspective tried to integrate that perspective into it. And then on set, the actors did improvise when it felt appropriate to do that. And we definitely integrated some of that into the script. But, we also cast Mason and Sal in the movie, who were actually in a fraternity at University of South Carolina when we were shooting the movie. And so we had them as a resource to make sure that everything felt like it was coming from an authentic place.
And you've expressed your intent to appeal to both those against and for fraternities, which is pun intended, a pretty fine line to walk. Were there any details of the depiction of it all where you might thought, oh, that might not work after all?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to make a movie about characters who aren't entirely sympathetic or likable, but those are also my favorite movies. And I don't think like an audience needs like a moralistic character to understand the messaging of something.
Yeah, totally. By the way, I myself am originally from Hungary, Europe. So to me, this whole Fred experience lives solely on the silver screen in different films, TV shows. Weirdest question, hate to ask it, might turn into something fun, but how would you explain the whole fraternity thing to someone coming from the outside, unfamiliar with the reality of it?
So that's a great question, and I totally understand why you'd ask because it's a totally American phenomenon. And basically, when you get to college, and fraternities exist at every college or most colleges in the US. Um, at some schools, there can be 40 different fraternities. And basically, it's like it only admits men. And in order to join, you have to have the members of the fraternity agree that you're the type of person that they want to let in. It's like exclusive. And you go through this process called pledging where you're hazed, usually. And it's something that happens quite frequently. There's been a hazing death every year, with the exception of the last two since the 60s. And, a lot of people who were in fraternities go on to end up having careers in politics or end up becoming the heads of important businesses. And we've seen it kind of become, I don't know, it's unfortunately like become a way to get ahead and make money after college because they've gained so much influence over the past 100 years or so. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's where connections are made that can be useful in the future.
Yeah, and yeah, totally.
A major or even main theme of the film is the idea of pushing limits, mainly someone else's. And I think people either tend to be extremely hard on themselves, therefore pushing their own limits, or on others. Sure, a director-actor relationship in this matter isn't like what we see and get to experience in this movie. It's not near as harsh. However, from your perspective, how does pushing someone else's limits versus your own relate to one another on a film set?
I think that like when you have an opportunity to like make a movie with these actors, you have a responsibility to give it everything you have and to set the tone and to just be invested and available and make sure everybody understands where their character's coming from, scene to scene, like has a sense of their arc, and also just like not being intimidated to give direction to people who have more experience than I do. Like if they want to be in the movie, I think like, and like they, pushed me to be the best version of myself as a director. And I feel like, yeah, and they, at times like people got emotional like at the end of a scene and we needed a beat to like let everybody settle because a lot of the actors were just giving their whole heart to I mean, it was just it would get intense. So
yeah. And another thing covered hand in hand with pushing the limits is this need to fit in, which is pretty much what ignites or causes the escalation of the story. And this is also something we all feel and experience basically wherever we go, whatever we do. And I absolutely love how this film explores this deep desire to belong to a group, a place of one's own choosing, no matter how toxic and dangerous that might be. It might be a bit of a cliched question, and I know you probably didn't set out to make, I don't know, a fable of sorts, but what do you hope people will take away from the film?
I mean, I think there's so much that I hope people take away, but yeah, I think it's kind of about Tom as a character who doesn't realize that he has agency. And I feel like I want audiences to realize that we have agency. And I think that, like, I hope we think about whether it's worth compromising our morals to fit in.
Well said. As a final topic and question, according to my sources, your publicist, Greg, next up, you're adapting Andrew Martin's debut novel, Early Work. Where does this project stand, and how do you see this as your follow-up to The Line?
Andrew wrote this novel in 2018 that is incredible, and me and him adapted the screenplay together, and we have a draft that we're done with and really excited about. I think it's totally different from The Line, and that's what excites me. It's like kind of a love triangle in the vein of something like The Graduate or Y Tu Mama. I want to do all sorts of different things, hopefully, if I have the opportunity.
I truly hope so too. And yeah, Ethan, thank you so much for your time. I can only imagine how busy you are.
No. And thank you for saying all that and sticking with the movie and since Tribeca, and I appreciate you, and your questions were super thoughtful. So thank you.
Thanks so much.